Uh-oh.
Hello, everyone. I am Kellie Fitzgerald. Um, Today I'm talking with the amazing Jody Doty. Yes, that is really her name, Jody Doty. It's one of my favorite names of all time. I'm not sure where we're going to start and where we're going to end, but thank you for watching, and it will be interesting. Thank you for
It
doing
will
this.
be what it is.
So I think we'll start with energies because I know I'm getting a lot of calls about that, a lot of questions, and I think you're probably getting that too. So
Yep.
what do you think? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a little bit heavy, right? A little bit. It's pretty heavy
It's a
right
lot.
now. It's a lot heavy. I always tend to minimize. I don't know. No, it's a little crazy right now. I know that there's a couple planets in retrograde that are contributing to the heaviness and the strangeness. Mercury in retrograde is always weird for everybody, you know. But then you kind of add the holidays coming up, the craziness in the world, lots of nutty political stuff going on. So all combined, it's rather exhausting right now, I would say.
Yeah, and I think from what I've heard just in the last couple of hours, empaths seem to be really taking the brunt of it. There's so many people that I know that are empathic are like, I can't stay awake. I'm just exhausted. What's going on? And it's really easy to chalk that up to what we call ascension flu. But I think this
Yeah,
goes a little bit beyond that because we are getting bombarded with kind of different heavy energies. And you add the holidays, DAZE, to it, and
yeah.
it's just a lot. So what do you tell people to do?
Well, of course, self-care, step back if you can, take naps. I mean, I'm a big proponent of naps if you can do it. I know people have to work, but it's the weekend. D- don't feel guilty if you want to take a nap, lay down, just take a day to not accomplish
Yeah.
anything, because by not accomplishing anything, sometimes that is accomplishing a huge self-care project for yourself. Just and a lot of times, especially for empaths, we work out a lot in our sleep.
Yeah.
And so it's good to sleep sometimes and let things kind of percolate up in the ether and not in your body. Just my thought.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that um, someone that I would have never thought was kind of open to this talked to me earlier about she's having the same dream every night. And she says every
Oh,
single night she is gleefully running through crowds with a giant sword, hacking people to death. And I'm like, I've had that dream. So it's kind of, in my mind, I think that's just really hashing out stuff internally that has been bothering you for a long time and has probably been buried, probably pretty deeply. But
yeah.
that's interesting that different people are having the same kinds of dreams.
Yeah, it is. Well, we're all part of the collective, and, sometimes we pick up on, people that are going through similar things. And I know I've had a lot of really strange dreams in the last 3 or 4 weeks, of taking an elevator off the planet,
Yes.
floating around ether,
Yeah.
a lot of mine involved kind of throwing crystals at the planet, like zap, sending love from outside the planet to the planet instead of from within it. And there I know that I think you're really right about this empathic hits, because a lot of times the energy's heavy and you can just kind of go, oh yeah, it's just kind of
Yeah.
heavy. But it really does feel like it's a prelude to a big shift, is what I keep hearing. It's a prelude to a really big shift.
Yeah.
So we're kind of getting us, you always kind of dampen down before you shoot up. I don't know why, but that's just the way it seems to work. So
Well, that's like a
so we're
slingshot. You
getting
have to pull it back before
it
it.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, destroy to create, unfortunately. A lot of times that's kind of what's happening in a lot of places. Is There's a lot of new growth just wanting to spring up, and we kind of have to deal with the old crap, the manure, before our little flower can break through and bloom.
I think they keep
My
piling
little
extra
analogy of
layers.
energy.
They're piling extra layers on top of that seed, so it takes longer to, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we all have hip waders now to
yeah,
deal with the crap we've had to deal with. It's crazy.
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, if you self-care baths, showers and baths always great because it cleanses your aura and it just makes you feel better. It just is something about the water is always so nurturing, and especially if you're kind of living by yourself. This is kind of the time of year when I think the weather gets you're inside and you feel a little more lonely, a little. Some people love it. Yeah, my introvert friends like you, Kelly, they love that kind of internal being inside. But yeah, you sometimes it's nice just to nurture yourself within your house. I just did a nice cup of hot eggnog, which I
Mm,
particularly like. It just kind of warms my soul. So, yeah, so whatever you can do, yeah, and I know everybody's like, "Oh, I'm so busy. I've got this, I've got that." But it's about balance. It's about I just did this myself. I just took 2 days on a little retreat by myself. Went to a hotel, went to a town I really like, had a really good time, and it really does recharge you when you take time to just kind of do what your heart desires or have some joy in your life instead of worrying about all the stuff that's going on around you
well,
or
worry
who
is a
you're living
wasted
with.
emotion. So, yeah.
It is.
What do you say
But you
when
know,
I had a conversation earlier with someone who you talk about self-care, doing things for yourself, making yourself a priority. And are you
that's
hearing that?
a, yeah, that's my son calling me.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's
Sorry.
and she says, I can't, then I'll be lazy.
I know. Why do we have given ourselves over to this idea that we have to constantly be doing something 24/7.
Right.
And we got to recharge sometime. You got to. And that's kind of a mindset that I think it's been just increasing and increasing too. I mean,
Right.
most people work fairly hard anyway, but you really do have to have that time to just rebalance, reshift, recharge, get in touch with who you are. Otherwise, you just become a crazy person running around in dizzy circles. And so many of us are like that. And then we are not in touch with who we are, with our life, getting back to us. I think that also that quiet time between you and the divine, just you and your God, you and your angels, however that looks to you, that is so important because it gives you perspective. It brings you back to who you are, and you're not at the whim of all these outside influences. Turn off the TV, turn off the phone. I know that's hard for me because I'm kind of addicted to my phone, but I did it a lot in the last 2 days, and I forgot how wonderful it is just to be outside and smell the air and just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, we used to have power outages where I am every time the weather would change. And I was the only one in this area that's like, I'm not calling and reporting it. I'm not doing it. I'm gonna
I'm
enjoy it while it
enjoying.
lasts. And
That's right.
it just is so difficult, especially people that work from home, people that are
Right. Oh, yeah.
self-employed. When do you stop working? You never stop working, really. Um, I know
Yeah.
people who run huge businesses and they are never not working. And
Or
it's
available.
yeah, right. And
That
it's just
that on call thing is that is so difficult.
yeah. you can't have a life if at any moment they're going to call you to go do something. And it's never, hey, we're calling you to come out and have a great time. It's always something really, work like.
Oh yeah. And then that, oh, I'll just eat my lunch at my desk. Well, that
Yeah,
never works because then you're eating as you're working. I found, at least when I worked in an office, I had to actually leave and leave my office, leave, go outside,
yeah,
and remember who I, get in touch with myself. And actually, even whenever I left work, and I guess you could do this in your house too. When you close your door, you imagine you're leaving your work in the office, in the room, and you go out and wherever else in your house. Hopefully, it's not an open thing where you just can't ever escape it. But
yeah,
when I would get in my car, I would actually change my shoes. I would take off my work shoes and I would put on my tennis shoes or whatever comfy shoes. And to me, that was symbolic of leaving my work. And I would actually put it in the back seat. So putting my work behind me and owning up to, the rest of my day. It's kind of a mindset of just being able to be present.
yeah. Yeah, one of the best and worst things that I did is move my office into the studio, because the studio was my fun place. I could come in here and, play a guitar or bang on a drum or something. And now I come in here and I work. And it's like,
Yeah.
huh, maybe I can
Mm.
work. Yeah,
Well, I guess as long as you can balance the time, do a little work,
right.
play the drum, do a little work.
Well, what I've started doing and what I tell people to do, and I've told people to do this for years, and I just didn't do it myself, but now I
Of
do, is
course.
actually set a timer on my phone so that I can come in here and write. And I do that, and I will set it for however long I think I can, get away without the dogs, committing a mutiny in the house. And that really has helped because I know, okay, I've got this half hour. This half hour is writing time. And then
And
when,
that's nice because it's focused. I mean,
yeah,
it's a time you're really dedicating
yeah,
instead of being pulled in different directions.
yeah. And unless I hear very loud noises coming from the rest of the house, I can stay in here and do that. But usually, they're not that good. So I have to change
Yeah.
my timer,
15 minutes. There you go.
yeah. But that's
Yeah, I can.
that's helpful even for people starting meditation. If you use that timer, then you've got this much time to devote to only yourself. And I
Yeah.
think the what I tell people, like an introduction to meditation, is learn to sit quietly. Just don't, that's it. That's it. You're not trying to do anything else. Just sit, because a lot of people can't do that. And I'm one of those
Exactly.
people that likes to do a movement meditation. I like to be moved.
Right.
But I learned that if I could set a timer for 5 minutes and just sit still, that was a long time for me initially. Now
Yeah.
I can go longer, but you have to build up to that. Too many people quit before they give themselves a chance.
Right. They think they have to do it for half an hour or
Has to
I
be,
mean, I used to do that at work when I worked in a corporate office. I would take a break and I would just, okay. And I would sit for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes,
yep,
sitting quiet. Oh my gosh, it made such a world of difference in my
right,
work because I released it. I would
right,
imagine I did a lot with balloons, heart-shaped balloons, because that's kind of me. And I would just put my work in a balloon and I would release it and let everything go. And then I would just sit in it. But the trick is to find a quiet place. But you can eventually get really good at tuning out where you
yeah.
can tune the more you can tune within yourself, the easier it is to kind of to tune out unless it's a barking dog or something that needs your immediate. And with me it would be a cat fight outside, and I mean with kitty cats, not
Well,
be a kitty
yeah,
cat fight outside my door. But yeah, it was really helpful in my work to do that. And I would do it 2 times a day, in the morning and the afternoon. And it was as good as coffee for
right.
me.
Right.
Give me a little boost.
Right. It's just carving out little pieces of time for yourself, I think is what most people can do. Don't make it more difficult than it is. I've I've had a lot of conversations lately with people about the energies and
Mhm.
what do you do about them? And I'm like, well, you can't do anything about the energies. They're here. What you do is learn to navigate yourself through them.
Right.
It's really easy to say, oh, computer's not working, it's Mercury retrograde. Sometimes you have to go a little bit deeper than that. Sometimes you can't, unplug the computer, plug it back in after, maybe that'll help. But you have to learn what works for you when you're dealing with these energies. You can't just sell everything and move to Tibet. That's really tough
Yeah.
for me most
But
days.
make it an excuse. Sometimes, I mean, I found a lot of problems with that I had with my computer, with my printer or whatever, often related to how I was. If I was really annoyed,
Yeah,
that's when my printer would quit working.
yeah,
And yeah, I know we have a mutual friend, Linda J. I know that when she sits down and at her office, she attunes her equipment to her energy
right.
because there's lots of different people that work on her keyboard or work. This is my time. I'm going to whatever she does. I'm going. What I would do, I'd just bless my office equipment and thank them for hanging in with me while I'm, going crazy in an office. But I think there is something to that because it's all energy,
Yep.
and even equipment like that, they can pick up on Discord. And if you're, kind of angry or have a deadline or you have a lot of stress, yeah, you always notice that's when I have to get this brief out in 10 minutes, and that's when
Yeah,
everything crashes. I actually did have that happen with a Court of Appeals brief one time when I used to work in legal, and the computer crashed. We had a deadline and it crashed like 20 minutes before it was due. And it was like, I don't know why they called them briefs because they're so long and
long.
lengthy, but it was crazy, and we wound up having like everyone in the office took a piece of it because we had a hard copy and they were banging out. We wound up doing it. They gave us a bit of an extension, but it was, but I really think it was the combined stress. The attorneys were stressed, the people typing it,
Yep.
the person that was supposed to run it to the courthouse, because back then in the olden days, yeah, you
You
had
had a
the car
runner.
running
Yeah.
and you would hand the brief to someone in the car and they would drive up the hill and run into and there was a driver and a runner, and they would run
Yep.
in and get it stamped like so many 2 minutes before it's due. I really don't think technology has made things better because, we used to have fax machines. Now
Yeah.
everything, and this is, I think, part of our challenge too, is everything's instant.
Yeah.
There's no delay. Everything is like right now. And I think in a way that's even more important for us to step aside and step back from things and release them because everything's increased and it's a little faster than it used to be. And, you know, I don't know, you just have to have that break.
We need to be teaching kids patience because
Yes.
this we've got entire generations of young people who have no patience because they can get on a game and they can play it and they get a result instantly. They can submit a test to a teacher and usually it comes back pretty quickly. And it's just not the way the world should work. It's really anti
No.
our natural rhythms. And then you get people who want to graduate from college and be a CEO. I know one of those kids right now. And you cannot convince him that you need to take some steps. You need to get some work experience. You need to, network.
No.
You need to do some stuff. And they expect it instantly. He's not the
Yes.
only one. I know a bunch of them that, why am I not wealthy yet? I graduated from college 2 years ago. I'm like, really?
It takes time, and all that schooling, it's it's kind of like when you go on a trip and in a different country, and it takes you several days to kind of get back to, your own rhythm, your own time zone.
Yes.
And I don't know it, I used to work in divorce, and we would always say, why don't I feel, I got this divorce. Why aren't I just feeling great? I'm done. Everything's independent. Well,
Okay.
you were married 20 years and you're
Right.
releasing 20 years of stuff,
Yep.
and you expect everything to be instantly better with a piece of paper and everything's great. It takes your body time and space to work through and process emotions and the things that have come up. And I'm not saying it takes 20 years, but I would say it probably takes maybe a year for each, I mean, a day for each year at least, or even a month for each year.
Yeah.
It just takes a while to process. And we are really unrealistic with ourselves, like the CEO thing. I mean, like we should have this just, instantly. They used to say good things take time, and they really do. Sometimes you just gotta you work through, and also there's lessons about working with other people, with and I think a lot of times too. I mean, I even being in the same field, because I was in legal for years and years and years, I kind of changed up and did different things within that field, and it was kind of nice to have a change, to let things kind of evolve, which is what they did. And so, yeah, we don't let ourselves evolve. We want to just jump ship and be right there. And
Instant.
that's just not how life works,
It's
unfortunately,
it's not.
or
I think
fortunately.
we deprive ourselves of things that we should be enjoying by trying to get over there faster, and you get faster and you get faster. It I there is a kid that I used to kind of coach who took 1 year one of Spanish, thought he was fluent, went to Mexico, found out he
Oopsie,
was not.
1 year. And
And
it's a different kind of language there. I mean, it's different because they also have the slang and, yeah,
yeah,
1 year, no.
no. So you have to give yourself that time. But, his whole thing, he had a good attitude about it. And he said, I learned that I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. And it's like, it's not about
Mm,
your intelligence. It's about you don't have that experience with that
right.
language yet. And I think people who start out on what they call a spiritual journey, I don't even know what that is anymore. I mean, when they start out,
Surviving. It's
yeah,
surviving. That's what I'm calling it now.
and it just they think instantly. And I've had a lot of clients like this. I know you've got clients like this too, where they think I've had a reading, therefore I am psychic. I've watched 2 TV shows about ghost hunting. I can go out and be a paranormal investigator now, and all of these things, and you don't have that time. You don't have the foundation. You're trying to put up
Yeah.
walls without a foundation. And I think that is so common. Everyone thinks that they know it and they know it and they know it and they don't know anything.
Or they know it and they can teach it. That's
That's the
even
other thing. Yeah.
crazier to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Years and years ago, I taught law of attraction. And a piece of my teaching that was journaling what you're doing so you know what's working and what is not working. I, one of my students, I took three classes, was is teaching it, and they're charging like $37 for the pre-recorded class, and I'm like, why didn't I think of that? No, I
Yeah.
have done that, but it just to me it has to be one-on-one or few people together. Small groups work better when you're talking about something like that. But still,
Oh, yeah.
you have to put in the work. You have to put in.
Well, and I was going to say, I know for me, I mean, I did several years of classes, and then I did a very intensive seminary, and it was a 2 year seminary, which doesn't sound very long, but it was probably 200 readings a year, and it was, working events, and it was so much, and then lectures full day every Saturday. And, but the whole first year was about myself,
Right,
healing myself, using
right,
the gifts and how, and so often I think the focus is on, what I can do for that person or how I can help or what I can do for the world, that kind of thing. But it really does start with you. And if you don't
yeah,
take the time, or like you said, have the foundation, um, to be especially in for readings and that, to be a clear channel, to
yeah,
not to read to as much as you can, because we always have stuff. I mean, it's as long as we have a body, we're going to have stuff.
yep,
Onion layers of the onion ring will be there, but it really does help to to get in touch with all your own shadows and your own challenges. And reading's a great way to do that. But um, but I certainly, in the first, I would say in the first month of that, working through my own stuff, would not have been a very good either teacher or reader for somebody else,
right,
because I was really self-focused on healing.
right.
All healing starts with you, and it flows from there. So it's really important. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is critical. And what I've seen is a lot of people who have not done that inner work trying to teach other people how to do inner work. If you haven't done it, you don't know, because you can read a book, doesn't mean you can fly that plane. It just doesn't, it takes some work. It takes a lot of work.
I think it's harder on you too, because then you are triggered so much more. You haven't already dealt with your dad issues. And then you're
Right.
looking at somebody and they have dad issues, and you're like, why can't I breathe? And why do I feel overwhelmed? And, it's
Yep.
because you didn't do that work. I mean, when
Yeah.
I would do a wedding, officiate a wedding, I would sit for at least 20 minutes and clear out all my wedding pictures. I mean, my own and anything that comes up around weddings, I would release it. So when I'm there doing that wedding for that person, I am a clear channel for them for their ceremony. But, and I think clearing, that's something that we don't talk about enough. We don't, really, it's like, wham, bam, let's get right into this. But
Right.
you really do have to, it's like anything else that you do, you have to take time to prepare and prepare yourself and prepare the room and connect with with your guides and your own, tune into yourself. And I don't know, sometimes that self prep gets lost in the do, gotta do this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes people don't understand that they're getting mixed messages. I had someone the other day who she's got all the clairs. She's naturally talented. And yet she's telling me, well, I see this, but then this comes in, and that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit. Well, you're picking up other people's stuff, and you're
Mhm.
recycling some of your own fears in with what you're looking at. And you have to learn, this is what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at this or that or any of that other stuff. You have to learn how to focus your energy and how to focus your gifts, because otherwise you may be doing a reading for this person, but what you're really doing is reading that guy over there, and you're not even realizing it. So you have to learn to be a really clear channel and learn to get rid of all that extraneous stuff that sometimes creeps in. And I somebody's poked me in the back twice. It's really interesting. Um, so it's
Yeah.
it's about clearing your energy yourself, but it's also about
Hmm.
maintaining that clear channel, because it's
Yeah.
really easy to have that interrupted by, whatever is going on. I have a very strange guide named Dewey. He speaks with a New Zealand accent. He is a goofball. And every once in a while, if I am doing a reading and I have not set boundaries strong enough,
Yeah.
he will come bebopping across, and I'll be like, hold on 1 second, please.
Oh, whoops.
And it just, you have to learn how to get rid of the extra stuff. How do you tell people to do that? How would you tell somebody to do that?
Um, well, mostly sit quietly. I find if you can just release the distractions, or focus on even focusing on an object, or I used to use my Lamaze focusing sometimes because it worked well even in my spiritual practice.
Right,
But
right, it does.
just to sit and have a focus that's not everything getting lost in everything in the room. But and I know some people really like to hold crystals, or they like to have, grounding's like the most important thing to me, to ground first, ground yourself, ground your room, and then do your centering and your focus. Some people do like to hold things that helps them. Um, so I would say if that's something that works for you for helping grounding, then hold a stone if you want to do that, or focus on a picture, whatever that is. And but yeah, you just have to pay attention also to kind of, I like to use gauges and barometers. How much am I really in my body, and or how much am I really present for this reading? And I would
Right.
do a gauge 1 to 10. And it's like, oh, I'm at a 3. That's not very I'm going to move that gauge to 10. I'm going to be very focused, and so you can kind of use visuals to do that for yourself. But yeah, it's really easy to get caught in when you have all the hearing, the seeing. I would just, if I had questions, I just ask God, okay, God, what is this about? Show me the one picture I need to know.
Right.
Tell me the one piece of information that I need to know right now, instead of focusing on all the stuff
Yeah.
that's coming in at me.
Yeah.
So, and that would be helpful because a lot of times that would be a line or a word that would just totally reground me and connect me. Um,
Right.
so, so you could make a cue word for yourself, like peace. Oh, my body will kind of ground and go into peace. Those are just a couple things that I would do.
Yeah. I tell people also to set into the. I am in a studio. There is not open to the air. A feather just came down. Um, Intentions are very important. You never know with me
Yes.
what's going to happen. You just don't. But if you set your intention, I'm going to be present during this
Yeah.
time. I am going to be protected during this time. Protection is a big thing for me. It is not such a
Yeah.
huge thing for a lot of other people, although I recommend everyone do learn how to protect yourself. For me, it
Yeah.
is critical. And for a lot of people that I've worked with who have had similar backgrounds, it is also very clear, very critical. But do set your intention. I think is important. Um, and
I
then,
like to have a I like to have a waiting room too.
yeah,
Like at night when I have a lot of visitors and I'm really tired, I'll say, "Hey, these are my hours. I am asleep right now. I need my body time. So you can come back and connect with me if you're still interested tomorrow at 7 a.m. or whatever it is."
right.
But again,
Right.
that's kind of an intention as well.
Yeah. And that's our mutual friend Gail says that all the time. She goes, I'm closed right now. And that, tells them, I got the close sign up, and that does help. Um, Sometimes,
Sometimes there's the persistent ones, and a lot of times it's because it is a really important
yeah,
message that needs to come through.
yeah, yeah. I have found that several times when working with law enforcement. If they're trying to find a missing whatever, whoever, out here, I have found a missing cow, believe it or not. But that generally that information will come through regardless of what I am doing. That doesn't matter.
Elsie, there you are.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. The other thing though is when we are connected with someone, I feel my daughter, I feel my grandsons, I feel certain friends, some more than others. And that is with everyone. It isn't just me that feel everyone. We each do. So sometimes if we're having a particularly sleepless night or a really hard whatever period of time during the day, if you go back and look at what was happening to people that you love, people you care about, you probably find the reason you were a little bit discombobulated.
Yeah. I mean, I remember early on, when I was first really working with energy, I would always ask the question, is this me or someone else?
Right,
Is this mine?
right.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was very surprising because I assumed it was me and it
Was
was not me. Like I remember, I think I told you this story a while ago on another show, maybe, but when my dog had gotten into a bee's nest, and I was at work, and I had the worst throbbing headache, and I kept thinking, "Why, gosh!" And I took stuff, and no matter what I did, I could not
uh-huh.
get rid of it. And I went outside, I sat down, and I said, "Is this me or what's going on?" And I saw my dog, and I went, oh, when I went home and she had gotten into business and her head was swollen
Yep.
like twice the size. And it was her saying, Mom, I've got a horrible headache. Come home.
Yeah.
So we got her
Yeah.
taken care of. But so often you're right. So often we just assume, and especially for empaths, a lot of times we assume it's us and we've taken on somebody else's, and then you need to release that. Okay, I'm
Right.
sending love to you and I'm releasing that out of my head.
Yeah.
And then I like to fill with my own energy. I'm not only am I making the vacuum and releasing, I'm also filling back up with me,
Right.
with my energy.
That's important, an important point, because so many times people, especially just starting out, they will let go of something. Well, then you've got a vacancy of energy. What's going to fill that? You have to make sure you are
Right.
intentionally replacing the energy that you let go of. I know sometimes when I ask, is this mine? I'll hear yes and no. I'm like, how'd that work? Yeah. But that's
Dang it.
yeah, that's usually somebody very, very close to me. So technically they are part of
It
me.
is.
It
It's
is
yours and
and
theirs.
theirs. But that only happens with like 2 or 3 people. It's really interesting when it does though. And I did a read
Yeah.
one time where uh, my client said, I keep hearing yes and no. So, yeah, that does happen. And if it is that, the best thing I can tell you is go ask yourself questions. Find out who it is first. And then figure
Right.
out what they want. What can you do? If you can do nothing, let it go. If you can do something, then reach out to them and then let it go. Either way, you're eventually going to let it go because it's not yours. But sometimes, in the case of a child or a partner or something of that nature that you feel all the time, it is kind of you,
Yeah.
but it's theirs.
You're connected, but yeah,
Yeah.
not. The
Yeah.
other thing was if you are in a type of work like a social worker, I know that's my son, or massage or anything where you're kind of working with a lot of heavy energies and the public and that, always clear in between, always clear, say goodbye energetically, look at, sit and allow enough time, like you say, to clear in between. And I would look at where did I pick up energy from that person, or did I pick up energy? And then I would look at those areas where I have pain or stress or heaviness. And I would just ask to release those and again fill in with my own. A simple thing that I learned is if you are having trouble releasing somebody from your space, and maybe it's somebody you're especially close to, is to come up with, say, 5 ways you're different than that person
Right.
to help make separations. Like, I have brown eyes, they have blue. It can be very basic, but it really does help you to kind of separate from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and really, all of it is going right back to energy because that's
It
why we
is.
feel each other. It's that energy that we feel. Um, it puzzles people. I have had people fight with me over no, everything is not energy. What are you thinking, you crazy person? But it is, and it's been scientifically proven actually at this point that everything is energy.
Yeah.
So we have to
Um,
really be conscious of what we're feeling, how we're reacting to what we're feeling, take responsibility for your actions. Everything is not something cosmic, you know. Quite often, if you wake up with a bad back, it's because you slept funny, not because Mars is in retrograde. So you
Yeah.
have to take responsibility. And with that, I'm moving. But you have to take responsibility for yourself. And we don't always do that as well, especially
No.
in the United States, because we are a culture of blame the other guy. And that
Right.
um, it's really difficult for a lot of people in this country to take responsibility because there's too much in I'm right, they're wrong. You know,
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine, but they maybe not fine. You know, it's kind of a victim mentality on steroids, really, is what it is. And so I think we need to teach kids about teaching kids. You know, it's
Well, yeah, that's where it starts.
well, that is where it starts, and we have to teach them to take responsibility for their actions. And we have to teach them compassion and acceptance, not only for other people who may or may not be different, but for themselves.
Right.
Because
For
everyone makes
themselves.
mistakes. We're human. Kids make more than their fair share of mistakes. And instead of going that was wrong and, maybe that was wrong, but you learned something. So it doesn't, because you did something wrong, doesn't make you a bad person. And I think
Right.
too many times kids hear they're a bad person because they didn't do the right thing. I know I grew up with that. It's like if you made a mistake, didn't matter if it was a spelling test, and it didn't matter what it was. I had a cousin who was terrible at sports, but they had forced him to play anyway. And on one particular
Oh,
occasion, he was playing football and he ran through the wrong goal. He was
right
not a
idea.
bad kid.
Wrong side of the field, but right idea.
He was not a bad person, but the way they reacted made him feel for many
Oh,
decades like he was.
oh no.
And we have to be kind of more conscious with kids, I think, because they do have so much to learn. If you told an adult, well, you're a bad person because you did that, or if you made them feel like, well, for one thing, they wouldn't feel that way probably. They would go,
Probably not.
whatever, it was a mistake, so what? But with kids, they take everything so seriously and so internally. And some kids
So
are
to heart.
sensitive. Some kids are really sensitive. I was a sensitive kid. I was blessed with having the least sensitive daughter on the planet. But for me, it was very difficult. Um, and for a lot of my clients, it seems to have been very difficult. So it's just a matter of reframing things. Take responsibility for your actions, but don't make your actions make you a bad person. See something
Right.
you can get from it. You learned a lesson, great, move on. And I don't think we,
Yeah.
so it's my 2 cents.
Well, and I think I mean, again, and I know we're kind of focused on this kindness issue, but there's so much unkindness anymore, and we really need to get back to just paying attention and letting our gifts of compassion and kindness play out. Doing things, saying things from there's so much that's said from anger and unexpressed anger, undealt with anger,
And fear,
fear. And again, another reason to do your homework. What is it that makes me fearful, and how can I release that and work with that so that I'm not fearful of everything when I go out into the world? So, but yeah, especially with our kids, I think they do take everything to heart, and especially some that I know my son was that way, very sensitive. And, my daughter would say that's your problem, but my son would just, oh, I must have done something,
right,
and so many empaths, that's what they do. Oh, it must. And sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with you,
right,
but you're so sensitive to things. Again, is this mine? Is this about me?
right. And if you
If
have a
not, let it
child
go.
that was psychic like I was, I could hear what people said about me. You really have to teach them to turn that off because really it's not your business what anybody else thinks about you. And I traumatized myself needlessly from listening to what other people thought. Don't do that. That's not a good
Oh
thing
man.
to do. And I didn't realize that it was not a good thing for me to be doing. And I kept having situations where I would get in trouble at school because I would hear what they said about my cousin and I would get into fights. And they didn't verbally say it, but they thought it. So I would take that as it was the same. Well, you thought it, therefore you could have said it. And it was really a hard lesson for me in elementary school. We're talking second, third grade here. And it was just, if someone had talked to me and explained privacy to me, maybe that all could have been averted. But I know I'm not the only kid that does that. In fact, I know of one little boy who does that too. And it's really, we got to talk to kids. If you are a parent and your child is incredibly sensitive and they tell you that somebody is talking to them in their room at night and they come out of the closet, that's not an imaginary friend. It's
Mm,
not an imaginary friend. So we have to take things that kids are saying seriously. Some kids have
yeah.
imaginary friends, perfectly normal. That's fine. They'll grow out of it. But if it is a kid seeing spirits, or ghosts or
Mhm.
whatever they're seeing, that's not going to go away.
And then we have that thing where as kids you're invalidated for what you saw too, and that's really hard. It's like I remember because when I was 5, one of the first things I saw was a UFO, and I remember telling my pilot dad in the military about this UFO that I saw in the in the cane field at school in Hawaii, and he's like, okay. But so that whenever you so be open to just even if you don't agree or you to be open to listening and just letting them say because some kids do see things differently. And when you're a kid, you just think everybody sees the same way you did.
Right.
I was shocked when I went around the cornfield asking people, "Do you see that?" And they're like looking at me like, "No, what are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I did find one kid that saw it, and I was like, "Yay!" I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not totally crazy. There is something there, but it's really a fine line. It's really not the easiest, I think, to have a very sensitive kid, but at the same time, you have to be open to this is their gift and open to listening, letting them say. And you're right. I know that there's a something in the closet. I had that with my son. There's something in the closet. And he said that one time at a Motel 6. There's a chicken man in the corner, and I'm like, oh, Jason, it's no. And then I look and I go, well, dang,
Yeah.
there is some kind of a weird looking thing in the corner that looks a little like a chicken. So, I guess it helps if you have a parent that also has some of those gifts,
Yeah.
but even if you don't invalidate, let the kids talk. A lot of times they hit school and they quit talking about it anyway
Yeah.
because kids are so mean and teachers don't understand. But when they're little, let them talk. And it's amazing what you might hear because kids are closer to God than we are. They remember, and some of the conversations or some of I would say more of the psychic monologues that you get from little kids are just incredible, and they're also affirming and they do have fear too because we live in a world of polarities and we have both and not everything is beautiful and angelic. There are some icky things that sensitives see, and then it's empowering them to be what I had to do with my son, be number one in your space. You are number one in your space.
Right.
Nobody is more powerful within your body than you are, and you have your agreement with you and your body and you and the divine or you and your God. Those are your big agreements. Anything, I always say, anything above that is gravy or lumpy gravy.
Yeah. You have kids every once in a while that will make friends with the things that aren't so light. I was
Yes.
never afraid of anything. And I would have something very dark or at least questionable come through and start talking to me, and why do you look like that? What makes you like that? What do you do? And and I was just full of questions. And a priest one time suggested I have an exorcism to my grandmother because it was just, I had an argument with him. That's not what Jesus looked like. It's not what he looks like. He didn't look like that at all. Certainly doesn't have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yeah.
And, I was, full of the devil. And because I had seen and communicated with these beings, and I knew that's not what they look like. It's
Yeah.
angels. Some of them are blue.
Yeah.
Not all of them have wings. It's
Yeah. Most don't.
and it's just when you have a kid who is seeing these things, I would not take them to a priest. Just personal
No.
opinion. I would not. But talk to them and make sure they know how to protect themselves and teach
Yeah.
them at least a prayer or two that will protect themselves
Yes.
and give them the power of words, because words do have power. And those things are important. That's more important than teaching them to turn on a light, which is
Right.
what I ever told me to do. I'm like, all right, it's light, they're still there.
They're still there.
More
No.
illuminated,
I used to put the covers over my head when I was little. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, and that energy was still there. And when I
yeah,
lived in Hawaii, there would be a dark energy that would, and I found out later it was like lava and earth energy. But I'm like, oh, that feeling's coming. The room's going
yeah,
to be totally black, and it was just the creepiest feeling. And it's like, okay, it's time to get under my covers now and hide
yeah,
from the tar. I called it the tar people, but it's nice to have perspective when you're an adult. It's like, oh, that was just love and earth changes you were feeling. But at the time, as a kid, it's very scary because you have nothing else to compare it to because everything is new. I think the other thing with kids too, and I know this happened with my son, is a lot of times they really believe that their power is outside of themselves. That's
yeah,
why I had to tell him, "You are number one." But he thought these entities could make him stronger, run faster, jump higher,
right.
help him. And there are angels and guides that can help you with things, but ultimately you're sovereign in your space, and I think that's hard when kids have so much influence from TV and other places that that this person is amazing superhero and this person is this, that they don't have gifts within
Right.
themselves that they should be valuing because there's stuff outside of themselves that seems like it's more interesting or more powerful, and we got to get back to being number one and sovereign as who we are,
Yeah,
especially with kids. They
yeah, kids
really need
need
that
to know that.
reminder.
Yeah, they do definitely need that reminder. I think as humanity starts waking up more, um, I don't know. I went to the grocery store the other day and I felt like I was not human. It's like, who are these people? What are they doing? What, you know, because it's so dense. The energy is so dense. And I try my best to push through it, rise above it, whatever. But nobody else does. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I feel like I'm up here and they're all in the muck, and I know that's not the way it was, but that sure is the way it felt. I felt like, can I like, just like crawl on the ceiling for a while? It was just really heavy. And I think more people are waking up and they're going to start feeling that. And it is
Yeah.
sort of, what do you do? It's like, this is heavy and this feels better, but my family's over there in the muck. What do I do? Do I get a new family? That's what I did many decades ago. But anyway, most people don't do that. It's just, but it's going to be more difficult for people. And I think that's one of the things that we need to start working on with younger people is
Yeah.
educating them because they feel the vibrations. They feel it. They
Oh,
feel
yeah.
it now. Why not explain what they're feeling? And I think that's where we're
Yeah.
kind of not doing a very good job with educating younger people because they do feel it. They don't know what it is they're feeling, but they feel it. And sometimes they take that to, I'm the only one feeling it. I probably should just kill myself and get it over with. I've seen that happen too
Right.
many times. So if we start communicating with kids, everybody is feeling the heaviness, not just you. You got to figure out what works for
Yeah.
you to get you through it. Then I think we'll have less suicide among young people. And I know that took a dark turn,
Right.
but that is something
Well,
that
I mean,
we need to do a better job with.
we do. I mean, I was reminded the other day, and I'd forgotten about this, that when I was in preschool, I would come home and bite holes in my sheets at home. Now, clearly, I was really distressed, and I think what and looking at it as an adult, and my mom just took me out of, okay, she's not ready for preschool. But I think what happened was I was just feeling all those overwhelming energies of all the other kids and that, and I didn't know how to deal with that.
Right.
It was like four, and you're like, I can't handle this. So it causes a lot of tension and a lot of stress. And as a parent, I think, I mean, I notice that with my kids. It's like, what's going on? Are things okay? Sometimes, most of the time, they would talk about it. Sometimes they wouldn't. But at least then you would know to maybe ask for a little extra protection from them,
Right.
kind of pay attention to who they're with at school, because not every little child is wonderful.
No, they are
and
not.
and my mom used to say kids only pick up bad things from other kids. I don't think that's totally true,
I
but
don't think so
there is a
either.
lot to that. There
Yes.
is something to that
Yes.
I think some kids also that are very psychic get very fascinated with things, and then they also lose themselves. Again, that's looking outside yourself at something. Um,
Mhm.
Even, I remember a class I took where it was like, when you're jealous of somebody, focus, imagine you're jealous of the person next to you, and what are you doing? And your energy actually is going into them, and you are
Right.
not home. So you're very open to be hit with things. And so it is about kind of being home to yourself, being present. But yeah, it's not. I think you're right. I mean, the energies are even heavier now than when we were kids. I
Yeah.
mean, we seem to think it was we think it was all that bad, but I think it's actually but I also think we have more amazing souls coming in, more amazing kids that are able to help, or able to kind of, they help us, in fact.
Right. Right.
The
They do.
granddaughter that does that for me.
Right.
But anyway, they kind of help you maneuver through it. So it's that thing of, can we help each other? It would be nice, and it starts even in kindergarten, preschool, where, if you see somebody that's challenged, reach out.
Yeah.
I just did a post on my page about loneliness, about not connecting, texting from one room to another. It was amazing how many people responded to that, about, yeah, because with all this technology, and you could reach somebody in another country like that, but we don't talk to our neighbor. We don't talk to the lady across the street who never, looks out her window and all day and is very lonely. So, we got to get back to more human connection.
I think that's really important. The connection. Um, when I was a kid, lived pretty similarly to the way I do now, actually. Took a detour, but and it was, everybody knew their neighbors. Everybody, you knew your neighbors.
Hmm.
If all the kids played, and if you did something wrong, that kid's mom might scold you as much as your own mother.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, it was everyone helping everyone. Um, it's not that way anymore, has not been for a long time. I know people who still live where I lived in San Francisco. I didn't know my next door neighbor, and our houses touched.
Wow. Yeah.
I I
It,
didn't know the neighbor on either side of me, and our houses touched.
yeah.
And I have friends that still live there, and I'm like, well, who's your neighbor? I don't know. He
I
drives
don't
a
know.
red car. Okay, his name is Red Car Guy, you know. How about on the other
Yeah,
side? You know,
we have kind of isolated ourselves from the human connection. We really have.
yeah, it
Yeah.
it's funny to me now. When I lived there and I did the same exact thing, it was perfectly normal. But
Yeah.
well, maybe it's I know all my neighbors now because there's only 8 of us. That could be why. You know?
Yeah, I have kind of a similar thing when I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
you
used to
know,
have 3 houses down our street, but now there's like 15. It's crazy.
yeah,
But
yeah. When we built this house, there were 3 people in this neighborhood, and now there's 8 houses in the neighborhood. And every time one of them starts getting built, all the other neighbors flock like moths to a flame to find out who those people are. It's the funniest. But
yep,
I do think it we have to reestablish some of that. I think that's a lot of why it is so easy to divide people in the US
yeah,
is because we don't
yeah,
have that connection anyway. So,
right.
you know, if I don't know that person, even if they live next door, you know, maybe they're the bad guy. Maybe they are the reason everything has gone wrong in my life has happened. Um, that connection, reestablishing that connection, I think would go a long way to healing that. And that's really what it is. It's a healing that
It
needs,
is.
yeah. So we have a little bit of time left. Let's talk about Lately. Speaking of teaching kids,
Yes, Lately.
um, I know people who watch my channel on YouTube and listen to my podcast have heard all about Lately and the elephants at least a bazillion times. But Jody is sort of my partner in crime in this. Um, so how do you explain Lately to people?
Um, I think she's a hero for her time. She's a bridge between animals, people, all species. She is unconditional love. She is very sensitive, and I love that about her. I like that she is different, as we're all different, and she's also the same, as we're all the same. She's both. She's deaf, but she has so many gifts because of that. Her communication style with the animals is different, and there's just something very special about her and about the project, which is why I have been really attracted to it since the get-go, because I think it just embodies a lot of these qualities we've been talking about that we really need to encourage with our kids, of kindness and compassion and unity and working together. And it's not just about kids; it's also about kids and adults and people and animals and the elements, the sky, the jungle. We need to be kinder to our planet
Yeah,
generally.
yeah. I think that is the thing that has taken me most by surprise is the number of people who have contacted me because they're thrilled that there is this book for kids or this series for kids that talks about protecting the environment.
Yes.
That is totally not anything I saw. When I first had the dream, my mind went to deaf people, the deaf community. This is showing that deaf children they're just kids, they're just kids. But the deaf community has not supported the project as much as I thought. I thought that would be the biggest supporting group. But no, it's been environmentalists, a lot of scientists. I got an email from a man who is a field biologist, which is
Oh, cool.
which is a character in the screenplay when we do the movie. Um, and he said his kids love the books, and he heard me talking one time about what the movie was about, and he heard field biologist, and he says, "I will give you whatever information you need."
Ooh,
And I thought, wow,
I
that,
just got goosebumps.
yeah, I mean, that's just incredible to me that environmentalists have really seen that part of the movie. And it's in the books too, but really the movie is where the field biologist comes in. Um,
Right.
the other thing that I have been really surprised about is teachers who are asking for kind of workbooks to go to teach kids about dealing with a deaf person or dealing with, what is Thailand like, or how do you care for elephants, and these kinds of things. That I haven't even begun to start working on that, but that is an avenue I think is important, and I've had several teachers ask for those kinds of things. So it's really, the whole story is combining the things that I love most, is the environment and the animals and one particular little deaf kid. But it's
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me who has resonated with this story, and the people that I
Mhm.
thought would, they have, but not like other groups. So been really interesting.
Kind of tells you that it's just a really universal story in a lot of ways and touches different people for different reasons and also globally conscious story. And we have lots of people working with us on the project that are from different nationalities, different countries, different cultures, and
Yeah,
that's really exciting too, because it's kind of, yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of like, you know, the story within outside of the story of,
yeah. Yeah, I would have never imagined the multinational thing either. That has just kind of fallen into place, and it's really cool because you get the different input from different cultures and different countries, and that's just really cool. Um, we have a lot of people in Africa that are wanting a similar book set in Africa, since this one is in Thailand,
Ooh, interesting.
which is interesting. But I'm trying to explain that we need a whole different series,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, and
Start now.
but it is really interesting how it has sort of expanded beyond what I saw initially.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just really fascinating. So
And we keep plugging along.
keep plugging along. Movie's coming, guys. I swear it is. Everything takes time. I keep hearing patience. Um, it's really, really cool though. When I
Yeah.
conceived of the story, what I wrote in book one was a very simple story about a little girl who was different from the other kids, and so didn't have friends in her village, and she runs away to the jungle and finds a baby elephant stuck in the mud. And the story was about this little girl and her elephant, kind of like a boy and
Hmm.
his dog, only it's a girl and her elephant. And that was really what it was centered on. And now we've got a whole cast of characters, and it's grown into something bigger than me and bigger than what
Yeah.
I conceived of. And that's the part of the project that people warned me about, and I went, yeah, whatever. And now I'm going, wait a minute, what did you say again?
Yeah. I hadn't thought that part through. Wow.
But anyway,
But it just tells you how when you have a heart project, when you have a dream and you put it out in the world and you stay with it, that it connects with other people, other dreamers, other people that that have a similar interest. And we all want kindness. We all want to be loved. We all want friends. We all want connection. Like we're saying, it's kind of what's I think it's missing, and I think this story helps bring it back. It's a start, and it's for our kids, but it's also for kids at heart. It's not just for kids, it's for all of us. Very important messages, and the script is just wonderful. So I can't wait to see it evolve even farther and until we can actually see it on the big screen. So
yep, yep.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. It's very exciting. Thank you for doing this today.
Yeah, you bet.
I think that's going to about do it for this time. Um, I'll be back. You know I will. Probably next week. I've kind of gotten off schedule with YouTube because, well, you know, life happens. But thank you so much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it everywhere. Yeah, that'll do it for me this time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Bye.